we are gonna make the other famous Philadelphia sandwich, roasted pork and broccoli rabe sandwiches. Now, usually it's made with seasoned pork shoulder, and pork shoulder is a tougher cut of meat and it takes a lot longer to cook than tenderloin. You wanna cook it low and slow, but the tenderloin cuts down significantly on cook time. Usually the pork is seasoned with a good amount of salt and pepper, but most importantly, fennel seeds and rosemary. So I'm gonna start by mincing some rosemary. And when I take the rosemary leaves off of the sprig, I just kind of hold on to the stem pretty firmly and just run my fingers down and just doesn't leave anybody behind. I think this should give me about a tablespoon. And rosemary is one of my favorite herbs. It has a lot of, I don't know, it's almost like a pine flavor, but it's not overwhelming. And it also has a bit of a lemony citrus scent. Sort of if you combined a lemon and a pine tree, you know? Add that to my dish here. And then, as I said, some fennel seeds, which has that really nice licoricey flavor, the anise flavor. But together, it's a combo. Now, onto our tenderloin. So this is a 16-ounce, a 1-pound pork tenderloin that I need to trim. And I'm gonna save a little bit of the fat on there, but I wanna make sure that I get all of the silver skin, which is the connective tissue, off of the tenderloin. I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil all over the tenderloin. It's gonna be like our glue, our seasoning glue. And now I'm gonna season the tenderloin with some salt and pepper and the fennel seeds and the rosemary. All right, I'm gonna go wash up. Okay, so using some tongs, I'm gonna transfer the seasoned tenderloin to this rim baking sheet. And I'm putting it on one side. And that's because this is a 1-pan meal. So we're gonna be cooking the other elements, which are the vegetables, on this side of the rim baking sheet. So I have an oven preheated to 450 degrees with the oven rack set in the middle position. And I'm gonna cook this for about 10 minutes. So while the pork is cooking, I just wanted to finish prepping our other ingredients. So I've got 2 red bell peppers, which are gonna add some really nice sweetness to the sandwich. And what's the opposite of sweet besides sour? Bitter. So I wanna use about 1 pound of broccoli rabe, and I just wanna slice off just the tip, just to trim them. Now I'm gonna cut the broccoli rabe into 1-inch pieces, and I'm gonna use the stems, florets, and leaves. It's gonna feel like a lot at first once you see everything on the sheet pan, but this broccoli rabe will shrink down quite a bit. And if you've ever had broccoli rabe, you know that it is bitter. And the bitterness actually comes from the florets. So I'm gonna slice this red pepper thinly, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. Sometimes I think the easiest way is to just cut all 4 sides off. And you kind of get in there a little bit with your knife just for that extra part, but then that's all that's left. Just tap the seeds out. And that way, I line them up just like kind of little planks, and it's easier to slice. I'm gonna add these directly into the bowl with the broccoli rabe. So we're gonna add some crushed red pepper flakes, just for a little kick, and some olive oil, salt and pepper, and 4 cloves of garlic. Now I need to give this a nice toss. Now I'm gonna go grab the pork. So I'm gonna use some tongs and flip the tenderloin over. So that step was sort of like the skillet portion of cooking a tenderloin. You know, it was just pre-cooking the tenderloin so that now it's gonna finish cooking by the time the vegetables are finished cooking. So I'm gonna add these. That's a good sound. Now I'm gonna put the sheet pan back in the oven and I'm gonna cook this until the vegetables are browned and the meat registers 140 to 145 degrees, which should take about 20 minutes. And then when we come back, it's gonna be sandwich time. So while everything's finishing cooking, I have my sub rolls, or should I say hoagie rolls, if we're being real Philadelphian. And I've got some provolone cheese, 6 ounces of the sliced provolone cheese, which is super sharp and a little salty and melts really well. So I'm gonna cut the rolls and just leave the bottom intact, and then open them up. Divide the cheese evenly amongst the rolls. So these are gonna go in the oven in a few minutes just to get the bread nice and toasted and help get that cheese nice and melty. Man. Now you see what I mean when I say the veg is gonna shrink down. That definitely shrunk down a significant amount. So first I'm going to transfer my tenderloin to my board, tent it with some foil. I'm gonna give this just a little toss. Yum. This just helps to kind of moisten up any of the crispy, beautiful bits of broccoli rabe and get some of that fond off the bottom of the sheet pan. So this is gonna hang out in the bowl. The pork is gonna hang out on the board. Both are covered with some foil. So I'm just gonna wipe the sheet clean with some paper towels. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just you want enough space to put the rolls onto the sheet pan, because these are gonna go back in the oven for about 5 minutes, just until the rolls are lightly toasted and the cheese is beginning to melt. Wow, this is like the sandwich of my dreams. Just gonna transfer the buns to our board. You could use a platter or put the buns on plates right now, but I'm a board kind of girl. So we're almost done. The pork has been resting, and right now I'm gonna slice it as thinly as possible. And this is also mimicking how you would get it at a sandwich shop. They get those long, thin slices of pork shoulder. Also, slicing it thin is a lot easier to eat in a sandwich. So now I'm going to transfer the pork. And last but not least, a little red wine vinegar and a little bit more olive oil. And give it a little toss. And that acidity is going to cut through the pork, the richness of the cheese and the pork. I'm so excited to try this. So now we have our dressed pork, our vegetables that have been hanging out, staying warm. Time to assemble the sandwiches. I'm going to go pork first. We're going to top the pork with our vegetables. Oh my goodness. I have a feeling I'm going to be getting a lot of requests in my house to make these from now on. All right, I'm going in. Okay. This looks amazing. I should try it. I understand why this is so popular. You've got layers of vegetables, the broccoli rabe, it's super bitter, the sweet red bell pepper, and then thin slices of seasoned pork tenderloin. It's got the rosemary, the fennel, that vinegar cuts through the richness of the sandwich, and the provolone. I mean, you can't go wrong with melted provolone cheese. Well, we kept all the signature flavors of that famous Philly sandwich, but we used pork tenderloin, so we saved a ton of time.